Welcome to EntreProgrammers Podcast, the podcast for developpreneurs, with your hosts, Josh Earl, Derick Bailey, and John Sonmez, the podcast where you get to be a fly on the wall listening to real conversations of three developers trying to tackle the challenges they face as entrepreneurs.
The EntreProgrammers Podcast is brought to you by SignalLeaf.com. It's not just the best audio host for your podcast, it's also the only podcast host that we'll talk about during the EntreProgrammers Podcast, because SignalLeaf is one of the services that I'm building and often used as fodder for information that we talk about during the EntreProgrammers Podcast. So check it out at SignalLeaf.com. It's podcast hosting without the headaches.
We're on there.
All right.
I've been sitting in front of a microphone for 2.5 hours.
Nice. Are you recording WatchMeCode?
Or? Yeah. So I had planned on recording 4 episodes today, and I had them all planned out, had all the code samples and everything worked up, because my focus this week was WatchMeCode. So that weekly focus thing is working really well for me still. And so I had planned out these episodes, and I got half of the first planned episode recorded, and it was already sitting at 30 minutes of raw material.
Oh boy.
Which is like at least twice as long as my normal raw materials are. So I decided to split that into 2 episodes. And so I recorded the second half as a separate episode, which I think was a really good idea because it turned out to be 2 very focused episodes instead of 1 broader overview. And then I recorded a 3rd episode, which turned out to be what I had planned originally, so that was good. But it took 2.5 hours to record those 3 episodes, and I had originally planned on 4, which turned into 5, but only got 3 recorded.
Yeah.
Well, aren't you glad you didn't plan 6?
Yeah, jeez. So that's been my day so far, and
Nice.
And it takes a lot out of me to record those things. It really does.
Are you doing 2 days of recording when you do your focus week, or just
one
other
day.
stuff on?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like Monday, I spent part of Monday planning the episodes and part of Monday doing other Monday things. And then Wednesday, I spent almost all day Wednesday going through all of the plans for the episodes again.
Yeah.
And then Fridays, I sit in my closet recording studio and do the actual recording.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. My Mac is prompting me for 1 million passwords right now. iMessage and FaceTime and good grief. Okay. Sorry. So that's cool. So are you do you have a plan then for episodes beyond, like have you planned out episodes beyond this batch, or was that planned just for the current batch that you're working on?
So this was the detailed plans, like the actual, these are the lines of code I'm going to write and the things I'm going to say.
Oh boy, yeah.
But I've got outlines of the next 10 episodes sitting in my OmniFocus app. So I've got enough outlines available to get me through the end of the year and I think 1 episode into the beginning of the next year. Okay. It's just, getting them done, yeah. Going through the tedium.
Yep. Cool.
But other than that, not a whole lot to say this week.
That's how I feel like when I'm really focused.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I did was focus on WatchMeCode and work on my client project, which is getting to the point where it's getting scary, because the deadline that I was originally running from was the end of the year, because there's this mainframe system that they have that's going away at the end of the year, and it is quite literally being wheeled out the door December 31st. So wheeled out the door December 31st means it's going to be shut down prior to December 31st so they can pack it up. And so now we're trying to figure out what the actual shutdown date is, and we're trying to figure out how much of what I need to have done by that date so that we don't completely hose the business with this project that I'm building to replace the scheduling mechanism for job schedules on that mainframe.
Yeah, and there's probably like major contracts and hardware contracts and everything. Yeah.
This isn't an optional thing. It's done and gone. I mean,
that's pretty stressful.
Yeah, so it's a little scary, a little stressful, but
it's better to know that now though than this mid-December.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you mean you shut off the mainframe yesterday? We're not ready.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Are you I've been curious about that. So are you doing like do you guys do with Node? Is it common practice to do like TDD style development, or is that?
I don't know if it's common, but I'm doing my best to do that. Let me tell you, my test suite has saved my butt so many times in the last week because I'm doing some major changes in the structure of everything, and really cleaning up the APIs and making all the things very focused so that they're better design, easier to compose new behaviors, all that kind of stuff. And without my test suite, I wouldn't be able to do this kind of stuff because it would take me hours to rerun the full end-to-end test if I had to do that every time I made any little change.
Yeah.
So having my automated test suite in place, as small as it is, and I know it needs to be larger, but as small as it is, it's still already saving my butt on a daily basis.
Node seems like it would be really well suited to that type of thing.
I think it is, quite honestly, and a lot of the WatchMeCode screencasts that I've done in the last couple of months have been focused around at least the intro to testing in Node.js with Jasmine and Grunt and all the plugins available for that. And actually, next week's episode that's going to post is it's like a 15-minute long episode that is a complete development workflow, including unit tests and JS hint and live reload and all that kind of stuff to show people how I go through my development process for Node apps.
Nice. Are you testing the UI at all too, or is it mainly backend?
No, I'm just testing this system that I'm building right now is like 99% backend process.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a job scheduling system to run various jobs from the mainframe and database and other servers on a schedule.
Right.
And we had looked at a number of enterprise scheduling systems before we decided to go down our own path, and none of them completely did what we need. We would have ended up having to write a lot of our own code and layers and UI and whatnot on top of any existing solution that we had looked at. So we decided to just build our own anyways. Build our own since we're going to be writing a lot of code anyways. But I think it's going to be a pretty cool product once it's done. I mean, the first version of it will be live here in the next couple months, but it'll take probably another year before it's really, super awesome, completely integrated, done the way that we've got it planned out for all the features that we need.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You could have just updated that the mainframe,
Yeah, and kept that $5 million a year contract when we don't need it.
Wow.
So that's the thing. I mean, this
amazing.
machine is costing millions of dollars a year to maintain.
Unbelievable.
It is. I mean, we're leasing the box from whoever we're leasing it from. It's like a 28 processor, 4 cores per processor. I mean, it's a behemoth of a box, but it's old, it's outdated, the software no longer does what they need, so there's no point in keeping it around because they've got newer, better systems in place.
Yeah.
And so they've moved all of the data off of that onto other systems now, and it's going bye-bye. And this job scheduling thing is one of the last pieces to be replaced.
Oh my gosh, I had stuff like that at my last job at the UPMC here in Pittsburgh, where it was like we had these old servers. Like we had this server it was the Server 2000 box,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like my crusade. For like 2 years, I was working to get the stupid thing shut down.
Yep.
And there were like just a couple stinking little apps that I could not get anyone to like approve. It was so corporate, so I had to get like approval to move the apps, and it was like, it's like I just could not find one person who was willing to pull the trigger, and so I'd get like quarterly emails from the DevOps team. They'd be like,
"Is that box
hey,
gone yet?
We want to shut this down." I'm like, "No, don't do it."
Yep.
Yeah, I think we finally just the fun part of it was that so UPMC is like related to the University of Pittsburgh.
Uh-huh.
And so they have this sort of, tense relationship where there's the University of Pittsburgh runs the medical school, and that UPMC is involved with. But so it just it was like this. So the people at the University of Pittsburgh kind of owned this app,
Right.
and they had no incentive to give, to tell me to do anything with it.
Yeah.
So finally, I think we just shut it off.
Yep.
And then
I've done that before.
They called and screamed, and then
Yeah.
we brought it back up again. So yeah, it was.
Yeah, I worked in a manufacturing company years ago, and we were moving, changing internet service providers and making a more robust network for the company. And there was a strange box sitting on a floor underneath of a folding table in a closet.
This is something you read about.
Yes.
On Daily WTF or something.
Yes, and nobody knew what this strange little box did. It was plugged into an outlet, and there was a hole cut in the drywall. Not a port, not a nice panel, a hole cut in the drywall with a very large cable coming out of it. This box. Nobody knew what this thing did. Nobody in the entire company had any clue what it did. So we unplugged it. 3 days later, we started getting emails. I worked in the IT department. We started getting emails from people inside the company asking us why they had not received email for the last 3 days.
Oh, oops.
And this included all of our orders from our customers.
Oh my gosh. Has this been in an email yet? You need to write an email about this.
I do. I totally need to write
Great.
this into one of my emails.
Oh my
Actually, that was the same company where I crashed all of the websites and
Wow.
had that talk with my boss. Same company.
Nice.
There's so many awesome things at that company. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
So we got it. We turned it back on. Actually, I don't think we turned that one back on. We reconfigured the network services to use the new internet service for the email at that point, and got everything moved over really quickly.
You might want to purchase some liability insurance for yourself.
Yeah, seriously.
Wow. That's awesome.
Oh, good times.
Yeah, I think the worst thing I ever did at my last job was I was playing around with the new publishing. Well, for me it was new, the web publishing feature in Visual Studio.
Yeah.
Which you can just basically point it at a file share and hit publish, and it'll copy all the code up. Because we had our setup was really primitive. Like we had our own server. We basically did drag and drop deployments of these they're just little tiny one-page apps. One of my I think it was like Christmas Eve or like the day before Christmas Eve or something, and it was like 4:30, and we were all everybody's heading out the door, and I had this one thing to finish up. So I'm like, I know, I'll use this new feature, and so I pointed it to our production file share and hit publish. Well, the first thing it does is delete everything in the folder, and it deleted we had maybe like 24 little one-page, ASP.NET contact forms, that type of thing. It deleted everything.
Oh, God.
I realized what was happening after I clicked publish, and it was taking too long. I was like,
Yep.
Second, wait a second. And so I was able to get them to just do a full restore, but that was definitely a panic.
Yeah,
Panic moment.
those are fun times. Oh, good stuff.
Yeah. So, well, cool. Yeah, when I have a really focused week like that, I basically, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like,
Yeah,
I did my thing. I
right.
had my plan. I worked my plan.
I did my work. It worked out. You won't see the results of my work for another 2 months, but I did my work.
Awesome.
But I've
that's
had
good,
a
'cause
number
you're
of
gonna be,
people say they are very interested in what I recorded today. It's all MongoDB, Mongoose.js stuff. So there's going to
yeah.
be like 9 or 10 episodes of MongoDB and Mongoose total, which will be pretty good. That'll be like my longest running series. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. How do you come up with how do you come up with the ideas? Is it stuff people have asked for, or?
No, it's things that I'm doing anyways. It's
Okay.
Yeah,
I blog and I screencast the same way. I blog what I'm learning and what I'm doing with my consulting work and projects. So I do something cool with Signal Leaf, I blog it. I do something interesting with my consulting work, I blog it. I see a pattern and a trend of a larger set of things that I'm doing, and I screencast that. So with
Yeah.
MongoDB and Mongoose, I've been using it for about a year and a half now. I started with Signal Leaf on it, and I'm using it for Signal Leaf still, and using it for my client work as well. And I'm getting pretty good with it. I'm learning new things about it all the time, but I'm getting pretty good with it at this point. And so I decided to do the series on here's how you install MongoDB, and here's the basics of the Mongo shell, and here's an intro to Mongoose with documents and schemas, and here's instance methods and static methods, and here's validation, and here's all these things that I'm recording to give people a good foundation of building applications with MongoDB and Mongoose.js. And the goal with this is after I'm done with the Mongoose side of things, I'm going to do a series on Express.js. And so the object model that I'm building inside of Mongoose right now is a user object, and I'm going to do a blog post with comments object as well in some upcoming episodes. And then when I get into the Express.js stuff, I'm going to take those user and blog post objects that I had modeled in Mongoose and bring those into Express and build out a very basic blog platform as an application to show putting all of this stuff together and building the various pieces of Express.js with route handlers and methods and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, it's going to be a very long series, like 15 or 20 episodes total, but each of them builds upon each other, and then switch subjects, but continue building on the idea to create this application at the very end.
Those are so valuable. I remember when I was playing with Rails, I looked at Charles Max Woods had a really good series about building a Twitter clone with Rails, and that was I followed right along with that, and that was just getting isolated blog posts are not really that useful. They're great for when you're Googling a problem, but man, when you have something like that shows you how all the pieces fit together, it's so nice when you're learning.
Yeah, and I'm trying to set it up so that each of these episodes is individually valuable. If you just need to know how to do validation in Mongoose, here's your episode for validation. But if you're learning and going through the process, you can watch the whole series, and it all makes sense because it's sequential and it builds upon each other.
That's really cool. So breaking it up more topically.
Right.
Nice. Yeah, that's a really good structure.
I hope so. I'm hoping it will start to attract some new subscribers, because I'm still losing subscribers, and it's still bumming me out. Although I'm trying not to let it, really get to me. Just letting it go, and trying to think of ways I can, start marketing WatchMeCode and do a little bit more to attract new subscribers. And I sort of have a series. I have a few sort of series-like things already with the debugger series and the unit testing series, and more recently I've put together a bunch of little episodes that all add up to what's being released next Thursday as my developer workflow. And so that will be kind of a series. I'm going to have a blog post about that, talking about each subject and then showing the final episode at the very end. And so I've kind of been heading in this direction anyways with WatchMeCode and decided to formalize it a little more with the MongoDB to Express.js stuff that I'm doing.
Nice. The workflow, is that like your tool set, or
Yeah,
okay. That can actually be really popular.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. That's actually that video is the talk that I'm giving at November. So if anybody's going to be in Nashville in November and you want to go see some awesome Node.js stuff, go to nodevember.org. I'll be speaking there along with a whole bunch of other really awesome speakers that are all going to put me to shame.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's it. That's me. I'm done talking. I'm going to turn my mouth off for the rest of the day.
I'm still asleep here.
So Josh, then, tell us about your getting ripped apart on.
Oh man, yeah, this has been a really eventful week. So first thing I guess is that I decided, you guys already know this, but I decided to quit SitePoint.
Yep.
Last weekend. I just looked at it and I just decided that I've got too much going on right now.
Right.
Something had to give, and that was the one. I still think that there's a lot of potential there for me to build an audience and a platform with it, but I haven't had time to actually take advantage of that stuff. I was sort of treading water with it. I was getting done. I was getting done. It basically was an hourly job at this point.
Right.
And it would have taken me I would have had to devote another, 6 to 10 hours a week probably to really make it something special for where I want to go. So, yeah, that was a tough decision. My editor was pretty cool about it, and she said that I could come back later if I wanted to. So,
thanks.
Yeah, so that was unexpected. But yeah, I think that was like last weekend. That was like Saturday. I think I did that. And then still working on. I've been still emailing people about AdWords consulting. I've got my chiropractor lead we're still talking, but I think I'm probably not going to end up working with him. He's really, really specialized, and I don't think I can get him enough. Not sure I can get him enough search volume to make it worth his while. But yeah, still plugging away on that. I actually so I emailed Noah Kagan this week.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about, so I wanted to check in to see how my King Sumo giveaway promotion ended up going, because I didn't know what my final numbers were on that. And so it looks like they sold about 135 licenses.
Nice.
So yeah, so that's a really nice. It's going to be a nice little bonus. I won't be getting the money for that until for like 90 days. They wait 90 days for refunds, which makes sense. So like December, I'll get my first check from them, or PayPal or whatever, and
so
they're going to
be like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're going to set it up as an ongoing affiliate thing too. So I'm just going to. I mean, the post is still going to be up. I'm going to leave the email.
It's like $6,000 for you.
Yeah, something like that.
That's going to be really nice.
Yeah. So, and it should be, I don't know like long term what the fallout will be, but I'm thinking I could probably get, it could be like another desk hacks at least.
Yeah.
Long term. So that was definitely, like, of all the work I've done in the last 2 to 3 months, like that was $1,000 an hour work right there.
Yeah.
It took me like maybe 15 hours to write that post, or 20 hours. I put a lot of time into it, but that's gonna pay off for a long time.
Definitely.
So,
that's pretty awesome.
And they also invited me to do a shorter version of that for their they're doing an email course. Noah has that Earn 1K, but they're doing an email 1K course, and so I'm gonna get to do an installment in that. So that'll go out. That's gonna be like a lesson in the whole course, and so that'll go out, for as long as they run it. So that'll be pretty sweet. But yeah, so I was talking to Noah about this anyway this week, and I asked him kind of in a separate email, like, if he knew anybody who was looking for AdWords consulting, and so he said we are.
Nice.
Really? Okay.
Oh no, I was like,
Big
so
client.
I tried to pitch him,
Yeah.
you know, and I got turned down. Yeah, he was nice about it, but he's like, yeah, no, sorry. So, yeah, he's looking for somebody he asked me how much I've spent so far, and I don't have, he's personally bought $2 million worth of ads, so he's looking for somebody who
in that
has
range.
been around the block. Yeah.
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 But yeah, I had to ask.
And you've spent like 600 of my dollars, and that's it.
Nah, it doesn't really. Yeah, it's not quite the range. But yeah. So yeah, but I had to ask, and I got rejected. But it's funny because Noah has that coffee challenge. So this was kind of my version of the coffee challenge, where you're supposed to go into Starbucks and ask for 10% off,
Yeah.
and they're going to say no, and they might even call security on you if you push it. And that's kind of the whole point, is to get over the rejection thing. So.
Yep.
But yeah, so also James Altucher, I don't know if you guys know him. So he's interesting. Like, he's not real big in the developer entrepreneur space, but he's really, really well known, kind of generally among entrepreneurs and wantrepreneurs. He's an author. He was he was like a financial guy, and he has a podcast and a huge audience. He's got like 80,000 Twitter followers or something.
Wow.
And so he discovered my Smart Passive Income post and apparently tweeted about that this week.
Nice.
So yeah,
nice.
So that's continuing to have some nice legs. Yeah, so that was exciting. And then I'm working on, I think, my best bet for prospecting for AdWords clients. I think my strategy is going to be sending out. I'm working on writing a physical letter, a snail mail letter, a sales letter, that I'm going to send out to people that I see advertising on AdWords who are doing a bad job of it.
Right.
So kind of like low-hanging fruit. And these people are probably spending, $2,000 to $5,000 a month. They have no idea whether their money is actually generating any business for them, because they don't have any kind of tracking set up. So I'm gonna probably compile a list of maybe 10 of those, and then record a video of how I'm doing it, and get somebody on Odesk to go get me like 100 more.
Right.
And then just do a snail mail. So I'll do hand addressed envelopes, which I will do myself probably initially, and then also outsource that. Because if you really want somebody to get something, hand addressed envelope, first class stamp. It's more expensive than like bulk rate stuff, but it's much more likely to get opened, so your response rates will be way, way better. Just makes sense because it looks personal. So so I'm gonna probably send them a three letter sequence. Just focus on 100 people initially and see what kind of. I think I can get a client or 2 or 3 out of that easily. And so I wrote up a first draft of a letter and sent it to the Perry Marshall forum and just got savaged.
You got some really good feedback though.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I have to say I was pretty like about the letter when you wrote it, but I couldn't really express what I didn't like about it. But the feedback that you got was like dead on. Like, yes, that is exactly how I feel.
It's like when you're like, I don't know if I should kick that guy. But then, everybody's kicking the guy. And they're like, oh, yeah, let's stuff his face. Let's give him a curb
kick his
shot,
face
man.
in. Come
So
on.
it's like,
That's great. Yeah, so my whole goal with that, I spent maybe an hour and a half on the letter. So my whole goal was to get something written and just get a critique on it and get some direction, because it's hard to know. It's really hard to know where to start on something like that.
Right.
So now I have some really good feedback. I really liked the one guy was telling me his feedback was to try to start with some subtle flattery.
Yeah.
And I really liked that.
Start with yes.
Yes, I really liked that. Yeah, and so I'm going to try to do that. and then I'm also going to, my offer I think is going to be to do a free review of their account. And I went to a really good seminar this week about how to do an analysis of an AdWords account, and like what to look for, and where you're going to find the easy wins and that sort of thing. So I have a checklist to go through, so I can do pretty decent analysis and find. I mean, if somebody's spending $2,000 to $5,000 in AdWords, and they're people that I'm going to be targeting, I guarantee, like I know I can find them hundreds of dollars. And so I'm going to spice it up by offering to like the guarantee that I'm going to give them is if I don't find anything, like if I end up wasting their time, then I will personally write a check to a charity of their choice for $250. So so that way they know I'm serious and I'm not just going to jerk their chain. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to try to get another draft of that written this weekend and get feedback on that again.
Nice.
Cool. Keep track of you might want to, I don't know if you want to spend the time writing it all up now, but you probably will want to write these up as blog posts as your
yes,
that's a good point.
At some point.
Yeah.
So because you're going to need to be getting traffic. At some point you're going to want to have a client generating machine, right?
Right. Well, but see, the nice thing about one thing I like about the AdWords model is that the client generating machine could be that sales letter. If it works, I can scale that thing instantly. Yeah. I mean, like it's going to cost me about $350 to send out a series of 3 letters to 100 people. So if I can land one client out of that will more than pay for itself, and then I can just scale it from there.
That's true. Yeah.
So, so that's for AdWords. But you're absolutely right. I want to do some blog posts about this. So right now I got a bunch more. So yesterday I met with my copywriting mentor, and he gave me several more assignments to work on. So I'm really torn about 50-50 between. Well, he told me something very interesting yesterday, and that was that he's done both pay-per-click advertising and copywriting. He said that he's had a much easier time getting people to talk to him as a copywriter than he did with AdWords, which I find interesting. That's actually really surprising because, like, to me, copywriting is something that most people don't see the need for, unless they're good marketers. And then if they're knowledgeable marketers, they're probably going to want to work with top tier experienced people.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually went back to him and asked him for some more feedback on that because I'm about 50-50 about what I'd rather do.
But look at somebody like me though. I mean, I don't know crap about marketing, and I'm terrible at writing that kind of stuff. But I know just from everything that we've talked about in the last year and a half that it's important stuff. Yeah. And so I paid $1,500 to have Momoko build that sales page for me. She did the copywriting and the basic outline, and then I built the actual site. But I mean, it's all her copywriting on there, her content strategy.
Yeah, and so one thing that's really attractive about the copywriting thing is that the platform that I have now is actually much more compatible with it.
Right.
I've got an audience to my blog that's mostly interested in marketing. I've got backlinks from Smart Passive Income. Yeah. I've got a small mailing list growing there. I'm up to like maybe 600 people. So I have the start of a platform that could be really useful for copywriting. On the other hand, what worries me about copywriting is that I'm worried that it would be constant frantic project mode.
Right.
With like tight deadlines and when you get good, you can make really good money. Like you can make 5 figures for a sales page or a sales funnel, emails and a sales page. I think John McIntyre from the Email Marketing Podcast, he charges like $3,000 for 10 emails. So if you can get established, there's money there. Mm-hmm. But I'm a little concerned I'm a little concerned that it would be more of a constantly getting new clients treadmill. Whereas with AdWords, I could get, there's potential there for a retainer. People might want, people want you to run there. And once you get the initial setup done, people will continue to pay you to just sort of tweak and manage it long term, versus always being in kind of the setup mode.
Yeah.
So I think I'm probably going to try both for a while and see.
Yeah.
The only thing that stinks is with AdWords, obviously the hardest part is going to be getting my first few clients. Once I get a few clients, I can start to get referrals, and I have more experience, and I can talk about ROI and all that stuff.
Right.
And so I'm going to have to climb the toughest part to find out if I really want to pursue that model. Actually, in both cases, because copywriting, I'm kind of starting, learning the ropes there too. So I don't know for sure which way I want to go, but I'm trying to just pursue both. And really, I mean, honestly, like the sales letter stuff that I'm working on now, that's copywriting. So, they're very complementary skills, and I do like the idea of helping people build sales funnels. And if I can at least understand how to buy traffic, even if I don't do it myself, and then know the copywriting side too, then I can help, steer the ship a little better. So, so I don't really know where that's going to go yet, but
you just try not to shut down the things, so that you have your website still, keep things alive while you're exploring, and you'll.
Yep.
I think you're right. I think it's complementary enough skills that you're going to make forward progress. So.
Yeah. So my assignments now, I've got a couple of autoresponder sequences that I'm writing, so that'll be fun. I haven't done any of those yet from my mentor, so that will be fun. It's a little scary. He keeps throwing me new stuff that I haven't done before. So.
That's how you grow.
I know. Yep.
You learn one skill and you move on to the next skill, and what you learn from that second one helps you improve your first one.
Yeah, and I'm really I just want to get better at just kind of getting down to writing, and grinding it out, and I think as I keep working on it, with copywriting, I still have this mental hang up whenever I try to dive into a project. So just doing enough of it will get me past that. So it's starting to happen.
I feel that way about screencasting right now. I sit down, I'm like, I don't want to do this. And I just have to force myself to start. And once I get into the flow of it, things go pretty well.
Yeah. For me, it's like the fear of just not being able to, perform. I just, it's just like I feel like I'm going to fail.
Yeah.
And so once I get through a few repetitions of each of these kind of categories, I think I'll be in a lot better shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But, that's pretty much it. I did get my sister doing Pomodoro this week.
Nice.
I talked to her last weekend, and she was like, I have trouble with procrastination. I was like, oh boy. Let me talk to you for another 30 minutes about the Pomodoro technique.
Yeah.
So
and notice that we took 25 minutes to talk about it, and now we're going to take a break.
Yeah. So she's been doing it and liking it, so.
Yeah.
So it's good stuff. I haven't been doing it myself much lately, but I haven't actually felt the need, when I'm working on stuff when I can just work steadily. So it's kind of this weird thing where, with my work during my day job, I've been doing less. I haven't been doing iOS lately. I've been doing work on the main website, which is a big ASP.NET website, and takes a long time. When you build it, it's a couple minutes. It's sometimes for me to build and test something is going to be 6 to 8 minutes. Yeah. So before the website can come back up again and everything. So I can't really do Pomodoro with that because I've got these. I do 10 minutes of coding, and then I build, and I'm not going to sit there and just stare at the 6 minutes while it builds and redeploys. So I've been joking with one of my coworkers that I'm doing reverse Pomodoros now. It's like, 25 minutes of waiting for the site to come back up and doing other things, and then 5 minutes of work. But it feels like. But so I haven't been doing Pomodoro with that, and with my other stuff, I'm so trained that I don't really have I'm not really tempted to be distracted.
Yeah.
So like this morning, I was working on that email autoresponder sequence, and I just worked on it, and I didn't have the timer going, but I wasn't really, checking Twitter or anything either. So.
Right.
So maybe it's a training wheels type of thing.
Maybe.
But I go back to it when I'm getting really stressed out. It's like my fallback. I definitely go right back to it.
Yeah, I haven't been using Pomodoro much lately either. But I think, I don't know if sometimes I feel like I need it, sometimes I don't. I don't know if I don't think it's necessarily training wheels for me. It's more, I guess it's more along the lines of if I'm trying to do too many things at once.
Yeah.
I think it's better for me to use when I have too many things going on because it lets me focus on one thing at a time. That's
exactly what I found. Like when my brain is racing and I can't focus, I pull out the timer and turn it on, and I'm like, okay.
But then I guess with my weekly focus, it's been pretty easy for me to stay on task. So.
Cool.
Different tools for different needs.
Yep. That's all for me, I guess.
So, so let me see what's going on with me.
Still in Hawaii.
This is the last week.
Managed to wake up on time today.
Yeah, the next week I'll be back in my office, and I'll be back to work, which I'm pretty excited about, getting back to work.
I've got a lot of stuff. Sit down at your desk and go, what do I do?
Yeah. Well, I've got to clean up a lot of stuff, like loose ends, like getting my sales funnel really for the course now, like squared away. Need to hire some AdWords expert. But no, I got to get that kind of thing figured out. I've got a bunch of like loose ends to tie up, and then I've got some other like product ideas potentially that I might do. But one thing I've been thinking about too is I'm not sure when I'm going to implement this, but I'm going to essentially take a year of coding, because I haven't been writing much code lately, and just start writing code. Like I'm not even going to care about like much else except for that I need another like a year of working on code for two reasons. One, just to get back to it, so that I'm not so disconnected from the software development side, and then two, because that's what I actually like doing the best. So I want to get back into it, and it's, I mean, I don't know exactly how I'm going to set this up yet, but I'm either just going to work on like apps or projects or consulting, or I might just like have so many hours a day that I'm gonna work on code, but somehow I'm gonna get that into either full time just doing that or as a daily schedule to make sure that I'm doing it. I just feel like I've been away from it too long. I mean, I still write some code. But it's not nearly as much as I'd like, and it hurts to like I don't know, when you get disconnected too much, then you don't really, like, I can't write a very technical blog post because I don't have much, like you said, Derick, I think, you write about or you screencast about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so that makes it's so much easier when you do that. If you try to force it, like you're trying to come up with stuff that you're not really working in, or, or you're like learning it as you're trying to do it for a blog post, and it becomes so much more of a struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, because you kind of have to struggle through it anyway. If you're actually trying to accomplish something, it's definitely a lot less frustrating than.
Yeah, it gives it a lot.
I just want to write this stupid blog post.
It's great when you have a project. Hey, I'm building this project, and I need to do this, and here's the solution I came up with. That's a lot more meaningful than just some academic exploratory. I decided to do this for no apparent reason.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's certainly value in those types of blog posts as long as it's, for the intent of research and ideas and exploration. But I think the majority of developers out there find the here's my problem with my project, here's my solution for the project, more valuable.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm, I kind of want to bring that back into it a little bit more. Like, my site mostly and my stuff mostly focuses on the psychology side, but then there's still got to be, more on the ground as well. So
yeah, maybe you could do some code katas.
Yeah. That's it. I'll do code katas.
And go work for a chiropractor.
There we go. But I think what else? Yeah, I had now I just lost my my thoughts there. Can't remember.
It would be an awesome project to build in this next year. I had this idea for this thing where you could record podcasts directly from your web browser.
Oh yeah. No, I might actually work on that. That'd be good.
That would be pretty slick, actually.
To start working on that.
So I had an idea along those lines, something that I want to do for Signal Leaf. And I've got all these amazing ideas for Signal Leaf, and I'm really trying to take my own advice of polishing what I have before I do new things.
Yeah.
So eventually, when I feel like the system is polished enough, I want to put Twilio in place to do voicemail, because I think that's going to be super duper simple. Actually, I know it's going to be super duper simple, and it will allow me to get the more cross-browser compatibility in place to be able to do voicemail for a podcast a lot easier. And I'll have everything. I would automate everything through Signal Leaf, so that you could get an actual phone number that people can call, or you could have a little pop-up where people can hit record directly from their computer and all that. So it'll work out pretty cool if I can actually find the time to do it eventually. But
yeah,
like I said, I'm focusing on polish before I do new things.
Yeah, it's important to tie up the old stuff first.
Yep.
So yeah, that's I'm trying to think. I read through. I told you guys about that book, The Obstacles to the Way.
Right.
So that led me into reading the Stoics. So I read Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, which was a really interesting read. It's I've been trying to focus now, like, I don't know, from what I'm reading, like just thinking about, we've had this debate before of like, well, what do you do? Like, do you retire, and what do you do after that, and all this, and do you keep on working if you don't need to, and from all that I'm gathering, like, I think there's the biggest problem that most of us have is living in the past or the future, right? And I talked about that before, but it's really apparent, like, as I'm reading through kind of the Stoics, and it's like the best thing that you can do, like the best way to be content and happy is to do the work that you're made to do, essentially, like do the work for the day, and that's the most rewarding thing, is to do a job well done, like doing your work.
Yeah.
And so you're never going to escape that, essentially, and that's how you live in the present moment, and there's no need to escape that. I mean, that's one thing also, like, as I've been here and sort of had kind of a forced, I've done some work here, but I've mostly tried to, like, I forced myself, okay, not going to work, and as I've had the time to do what I've wanted to do, I've realized that it's, that is true, that the most rewarding thing will be to, and it's not it's kind of this ability to separate, again, the result from the action. Like, the action itself is the thing. And if you're focused too much on the result, then you end up like you're living for the future. You're like, well, when I achieve this point, and when I accomplish this thing, and it's sort of the other big component of it is this, like, the idea of what you can control and what is out of your control. And the things that are out of your control, you have to be, like, grateful for that they happen to you, good or bad, like, not placing judgment on them. Otherwise, you're, like, constantly fighting against, how life is unfair, or situations that you want to change, as opposed to focusing on the things that you're doing, which actually will matter in the long run to you more than than any result. And results come obviously, but you can't to some degree you can't do things based on the result.
Sounds similar to some of the stuff in How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's a quote in there that I love. I think it's actually a Shakespeare quote, but he says it in that book. It's something like, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Exactly,
which is true. I mean, an event is something that happens is just something that happens, but our thought processes and what we value and don't value and what we like and don't like, that's what tells us whether or not something is good or bad. And so you can change the way you see these things that happen, and it takes time and it takes work and it takes effort. But it's possible to change how you see the way things are happening and whether or not you're grateful and appreciative and all that kind of stuff. And then there was the circle of influences. I don't remember if that was from that book or another book. But the idea of there's your sphere of influence where you have direct control, and then there's the larger sphere where you have some influence, and then there's the larger sphere of everything that you don't have any control over. And the focus should be the things that you have control over, which will slowly expand into the things that you have influence over, which will slowly expand into the things that you don't have any control over. And there's always going to be things that you don't have any control over, but you can expand your influence and your control by focusing on the things that you can control and influence versus focusing on things that you can't control or influence.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yep. And that's kind of the key. So I've been trying to it's interesting. This time has kind of been like an exercise in like a mental shifting for me to really focus on, take time to kind of understand and say, okay, well, I've been focused a lot on the future, and I've always said, well, I need to achieve this real estate goal or this income goal, and then I'll need to get this done, and it's always been and then. But now, when you get there, then what? It's you can't just keep on setting further. You have to then have a transformation, and that's kind of where I've been at, I think, for these past 2 months is realizing that, okay, now it's going to be like living for the present moment. Like you're excited to do the work because it is the work,
right?
As opposed to, and just focusing on the action, like what needs to be done today, and that's good enough. Like today, so it's interesting. It's something that I saw coming, like this cliff that's coming. Like I think most people don't ever reach this cliff, because I think a lot of people, they work their whole lives, 30, 40 years, whatever, and they're always aiming for the goal, the destination of, oh, someday when I retire or become rich,
right.
And they never actually reach it. Or they reach it later in life when they're just about done, and so they don't have they don't go over the cliff, but I felt like I've been creeping up on the cliff, and it's weird to call it a cliff, like reaching your goals, but in reality it is, because that's the most dangerous. Like when you see again, lottery winners and even celebrities, people who reach their success and then they're destroyed by it.
Even retirees. I mean, even people that do retire, a lot of people end up dying.
Yeah.
I mean, you have no purpose and you just kind of shut down.
Yeah. So it's actually kind of a dangerous thing to reach that. You got to be prepared ahead of time. So that's kind of where I've been seeing my boat coming close to the cliff, and it's like, okay, now what do you do at this point?
I think if your boat's coming close to the cliff, it's called a waterfall.
Yeah, that would be
Don't go chasing waterfalls. Just stick to the rivers and streams that you're used to.
But I think everyone's got to, especially on the entrepreneurs are the most dangerous probably to actually achieving their goals. There's people, if you have ambition, you're in the most dangerous spot, right? Because you're more likely to actually achieve those things. So I think entrepreneurs have to think about this and really you have to be prepared for success, and what will it do to you, what will it mean to you, and then how will you live beyond success.
But it goes so much further than just that, though. I mean, it's that goes straight to the heart of a lot of the problems that we have as a society with consumerism.
Mm-hmm.
You see all of these people going bananas over the latest iPhone, and oh, if I could just get the latest iPhone, then I would be happy. Oh, if I could just get the latest iPhone. Yeah, except then it turns into a banana that you bend, and and you end up with this constant give me, because that's what your goals are, and that's the thing that you set as this, if I could just, get this, if I could just, and you end up doing those things, whether it's on borrowed credit or earned through hard work and savings, you end up in these places where you just can't. You're always going to be wanting more because the goals and accomplishments are finite and never satisfying, and there needs to be that longer term journey and the place that you will literally never be able to get to, and that's where you set your eyes so that you will always have something to do and someplace to go.
Yeah, I think that's true. Oh, Josh had to drop off. But,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and most people can live their lives, I think, in a daydream and not realize that and not be too affected by it. Like it's almost like it's like being like not awake, but you're not harming yourself. Like you can't harm yourself in your dream. So like you're not alive, but you're also not you're also not harming yourself. And so it's a question of when you do wake up, then you're in danger of really harming you. Now you have to be able to control those things. Now you can't, those things will destroy you. Whereas if you're working a 9-to-5 job and you're, working for 30 years or whatever, and paying the mortgage and living paycheck to paycheck, it's not going to destroy you. Like it's a waste of a life to some degree, like you said, chasing the iPhone, the bendable iPhone, and But the point where you are actually in danger of achieving the things where you could actually have the things that like all the things you want, essentially. Like if you can have everything that you want, then you're in serious danger of destroying yourself. So you have to be prepared. But it's interesting just reading through the Stoics and seeing that they saw like thousands of years ago, right? People figured this out, and
we're all still human.
Yeah. Well, especially people like Marcus Aurelius, who's like the emperor of the most powerful, empire in the world.
Yeah.
He basically had everything that he wanted. So then, what does he do at that point? And what does he think about what's important at that point? And so that's the thing to think about. Which I mean, most people don't really spend much time thinking about that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't just apply. I mean, I guess like you said, just you can get rid of this idea of the consumerism if you can focus on those type of things. It's just that most people won't ever be shaken awake to need to feel like they need to do that.
Right.
All right, should we wrap it up?
I guess so. I don't really have anything else for this week. And next week I'm going to be focused on a presentation. And in a week and a half from now I'll be at, I think it's about a week and a half, October 9th, whenever that is. I'll be at a conference in Oklahoma talking at Thunder Plains Conference, doing some JavaScript robots stuff.
Oh, cool.
It's a fun little talk. I start the presentation by saying, it's going to be a good topic of a good presentation when the presenter has to put on safety glasses.
Nice.
And then I go through, some basic electronics stuff, and I blow up a few LEDs on stage to show people how it's done and what can happen, and so driving around this little robot that I have using some JavaScript libraries and using one of those leap motion capture devices where you can move your hand around and get motion capture control stuff. So I drive it around with that, and I drive it around with an Xbox controller. It's a fun presentation. I just got to make sure I have all the pieces I need and go through the material again, all that stuff. So that's going to be my focus next week, and then the week after that, I'll probably do a little bit of Signal Leaf, but the week after is going to be mostly the conference again.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. When I get back, I'll have a lot more stuff going on. I got to prepare for Oslo for the 2 conferences I'm doing there too. So yeah. I'm doing one thing on Meteor.js, which I haven't touched in a while. So
good luck with that.
Yeah. I guess I'll talk to you next week then. I'll be back in my office.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Wanna start a business, but you just know how to code. Listen to John, Josh, and Derick as we figure it out. We are the EntreProgrammers, and we'll teach you straight up to be developers.